Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Yes, you are listening to the 7062 podcast, and you know every time I use my Dominic intro, I've got to do my little lilt there. I am your host, Stephanie K. Thank you, as always, for joining me on our fun little trek through the world of science fiction and Star Trek, and usually Enterprise at some point. Thank you all for joining me here. We're in March. I am so excited. I always get excited when I think about the weather getting warmer and it's staying lighter later. So I'm in pretty good. I've been in pretty good spirits lately. I'm also in really good spirits because last night I watched this virtual Star Trek The Cruise voyage thing because the cruise was supposed to be happening and they pushed it off to 2022. So last night they did a virtual thing with Nana Visitor and Connor Trenier and Chase Masterson, and it was a whole lot of fun, and I tuned in for that. And then there was Chase's virtual pajama party, because if anybody's been on the cruise, and I was there in 2019, the cruise was an incredible experience, and the pajama party is something that Chase does. And so I figured I'd pop into that Zoom meeting, and it was so much fun to hang out on Zoom with fellow cruisers. So if you want to catch that, you can head over to the Star Trek The Cruise YouTube channel. And if you check out the pajama party, you might see, somebody pop in and ask Chase and talk to Chase a little bit. You might recognize. So yeah, so that is something fun and Trekky to do. Sorry, getting distracted. Should not be doing that, but did it anyway. Okay, so hello, Magic Lasso. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I figured out what this hashtag meant, and this hashtag actually got me noticed on somebody else's comic book podcast, so I thought that was really funny. The other stuff, the other little housekeeping things that we're going to talk about before I get into the main event for tonight. We're going to talk about GalaxyCon Live. Don't forget there is a ton of Star Trek stuff happening GalaxyCon Live. Their general Q&As are always free. There's no guarantee you're going to get your A answered or your Q. There is no guarantee that your Q is going to get an A, but you can always try, and they're always fun, and they're very high quality. So check out GalaxyCon Live to get a list of all the amazing Star Trek things they have going on this month. STLV is only 115 days away. They have added one more person to the mix. They have their 104th guests. It's Vic. Not even going to try his last name. He plays Captain Kirk in the web series Star Trek Continues. So, hey, Robert. So that is all the Star Trek news I have to catch you all up on. Hey, Travis. But like I said, go check out the Star Trek The Cruise virtual stuff. It is a lot of cruise talk, and the cruise is selling out pretty quick, but it's still fun, and Connor Trenier. So that's all I have to say about that. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to my special guest for the evening. I see that he is well situated and ready to go. You may know him. He has been a big part of my childhood. You may know him from Land of the Lost, or if you're like me, you don't just know him from Land of the Lost. You know him from Days of Our Lives. Oh, well, hey, Doug. Welcome. Always glad to see the noobs. Welcome, welcome, welcome. One of my favorite people. I met him in 2019 when we were seated next to each other in our booths at Star Trek Las Vegas. And you're going to find out why Land of the Lost got to go to Star Trek Las Vegas. And without further ado, here he is, Wesley Eure. Yay! Hey, Wesley, how are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, okay, I got to tell everybody, you were actually one of my favorite people on the planet.
Oh, really?
And we did, you know what we did? It was your birthday weekend a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting next to you at Star Trek. And we sat there for the whole 8 days, 7 days.
It just feels like
14 years. But we sat there. And we got to celebrate your birthday. And it was truly one of the best times I had meeting somebody. And, the things I love about conventions, and with Land of the Lost, and Kathy Coleman played Holly and myself do a lot of the shows with Phil Paley, who plays Chaka. But, it's we go to these conventions, obviously, that we make a little money and we get to talk to our fans, but we make such great friends. And you are one of those rare occasions that the friendship has continued to last on a very personal level, where it's not just I'll see you at a convention, but we actually talk outside of conventions and stuff like that. So it is an honor to be here, and congratulations on your podcast.
Oh, Wesley, thank you so much. You are definitely one of my favorite too. You gave me, for my birthday, I remember, because we were sitting there, was the Friday of the convention. I'm sitting there and you're like, what do you want? And you pulled some stuff out of your bag and you gave me macadamia nut caramel corn or something. And you're like, happy birthday!
I spared no expense for you. I must tell you.
No, you are just...
We go to these conventions and we bring bags because we're sitting, especially Star Trek convention, because it's a convention. And that one year, I think it was, they were like stayed open like 12 hours a day. It was crazy. Well, we had a bag of goodies, to keep us going, and so whatever anybody needed, we had. Anybody want something? Come to our table.
What was really funny about that convention was I remember the first day sitting there, and my love of Days of Our Lives is one of the only things I can tell people that predates science fiction for me, like predates Star Trek, because when I was a little girl, when I was in kindergarten, and kindergarten was half days, and I used to sit and have lunch with my mom, either because I just gotten home or because I was just getting ready to go to school, and she watched Days of Our Lives. So I watched Days of Our Lives since I was 5 years old. And the first day at the convention, we're sitting there, and I'm doing my thing, and somebody had come over to your booth. I forget who it was. But all of a sudden, I just heard them say, Days of Our Lives. And I said, you want Days of Our Lives? Who are you? And you're like, Mike Horton? I went, oh my God!
Yes, when I was young and pretty.
And you're like... And when you were at Chippendale, you were Chippendale Centerfold or something?
I actually was. I did a Chippendale's calendar. I was the month of May.
There you go.
I did a bunch, Playgirl magazines and all that stuff back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah. See, moms tend to drag you into your soap operas, I think. Real quick before we move on, I'm sorry you missed my conversation last night. Oh, there you go. Chase is great to talk to, domestic. If you have a chance, I don't know, Wesley, if you ever had a chance to meet Chase Masterson at any of the conventions. She played Lita on Deep Space Nine. She also has a charity called Pop Culture Hero Coalition.
No, I've not yet had the honor, so.
I will make a point of introducing
I am a huge Trekkie fan. I mean, hello, Star Trek. It's my go-to.
Yeah, exactly. So I will be my pleasure to introduce you to Chase. In fact, I know Chase's right-hand guy, Raymond. He's one of my closest friends, and I know he really wants to meet you, so I promised him an introduction. So hopefully, if we're all together in Vegas this year, it'll be after my birthday, but I still expect you to bring me something.
Yeah, it's going to be, what is it, August?
11th.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got my reservations at the Rio for the whole 8 days, because we drive in from Palm Springs.
Right.
And, I still haven't sent in my request for a table yet, because everything is up in the air about COVID,
right.
What's going on, what we can do and can't do.
But you know what? It's actually ending a couple days before your birthday, so I guess I'm going to have to. It's ending on the 15th, so I guess I'm going to have to bring you a birthday present too.
Yay!
Yay! But I know the one thing you don't need in your life is more slee stocks. You have some amazing fans that make you some of the most incredible stuff from the show.
God, you know what? It is truly amazing. Land of the Lost ran. It was from 1974, 5 and 6. Sid Marty Krofft. It's still on the air. It's back. It's on the air now on one of the stations, and it is. And the following, I think, has gotten larger and larger as the years go on, because for everybody out there, our show, Land of the Lost, was written by the Star Trek writers.
Hence why you're on my show.
Our head writer was David Gerald, Trouble with Tribbles, who is the reason that Land of the Lost became sci-fi, because Land of the Lost was just going to be the story of a boy and his father, like a Swiss Family Robinson, until David Gerald got on board and then brought D.C. Fontana, Larry Niven. But my favorite, of course, is Enoch, who's the talking Sleestack, if you guys remember the orange one, played by Walker Edmondson. He was written, the intro episode was written by Walter Koenig.
I think yep.
Original Chekhov. And so I see Walter at the conventions every year, right? So Walter's over there signing autographs, got a huge line and everything. And he'll come over to our table. He's got his hat on and he's shuffling. He comes by the table and goes, those damn Crofts, those damn Sid Marty Croft. I should have got residuals for you guys. Should have gotten residuals. I love him. He's so. But look, I mean, here's actually something a fan made for me, and it's extraordinary. It's a beautiful police tech head.
That, sitting next to you guys, I mean, fans were coming up and giving you gifts at the convention, and it's just incredible, the talent.
It really, I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, I've got an Enoch head that's life size up in my attic. I've got, but one of the things that we like to do, we can't do it to Star Trek because there's no room to do it, but we usually bring a yellow raft. Because in the opening of Land of the Lost, you would go over the waterfall. And in fact, I sang the theme song on the show back in the day. And we go over the waterfall during the theme song. And we're in a yellow raft and we enter the Land of the Lost. And so for autograph shows, normally we bring a yellow raft, and Kathy played Holly and Chaka, Phil Paley played Chaka the Monkey Boy. We put our fans in the raft with the oars and life jackets, and we do like a whole photo shoot. It comes with your autograph. So because we've always had this feeling that if you're going to do an autograph show, look, we're there. All of us are there together. And, I'm a fan too. I'm seeing all the people I love as a fan, but we want to make sure that we give something more than just sitting there like a, hey, how are you? Take an autograph. We want to give like an experience. And so we usually bring the raft. And the Star Trek convention for a couple of years, we brought a smaller one. I brought one in Mexico, a smaller yellow raft, and we tried to sneak it in, and we tried to get people in it. And finally they just said to us one year, they said, don't bring the raft. You're making too much noise. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Creation, yeah. You guys have the distinction of being the only other television show that is allowed at the Star Trek convention. And yes, it was cool. And we worked together at another convention after Star Trek, and I got my picture in a raft.
Yes. And also for Star Trek fans, because first of all, again, I'm a huge Trekkie, is Mike Westmore was our makeup artist. Mike created the Slee Stack. He created the designs. He created everything. He did all of our makeup, did Chaka the Monkey's makeup. And of course, Mike Westmore is the famed makeup artist for Star Trek, from the original Star Trek, from many of the Star Treks, creating a lot of the monsters. And so we have that tie with Mike Westmore, who also comes by our booth every Star Trek convention, and we hug and kiss and talk. In fact, they just found his son found in Mike Westmore's garage. He found the original plaster of Paris mold for the Sleestak head.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
What? Oh, no! Oh my God, Stephanie! No, Stephanie! I'm sorry, no, please! Oh, Stephanie, no! I didn't know.
You said Sleestak 20 times.
Oh my God!
Wesley's actually domesticated. After 30 odd years, you finally domesticated yourself as Sleestak.
I don't think, listen, this is very important for people from Land of the Lost is, I don't, what's happening with you? You understand? Look, we are on camera now. We are talking to Stephanie. I think the people don't understand.
I love you too.
He tried to steal every scene, but, it's important because I don't think people understand the pain that the Sleestak went through. Can you explain it to everyone about your life? Really? You really felt that? Wow. This is a first. This is the first. Land of Lost, a Sleestak confession. It's amazing.
I wish I had subtitles.
I know. Remember the Sleestak they came up with bow and arrows, and they would shoot the arrows, and the arrows would go like right down. They wouldn't go about this. Well, you want a very good shot, for gosh sakes. I mean, no. Oh, fine, okay. The Sleestak has left the room.
You insulted him. I learned this stuff.
Only for you, darling. Only for you would we bring out Sleestak for your show.
I know, and I love it. And thank you, Mr. Sleestak, for coming on camera. Love you so much.
He's gone to hibernate. I think it's mating season. He's got to lay an egg or something tonight. It's
okay. All right.
A cold night.
Doug M thinks you're the best. And that you've made Land of the Lost special for everybody that was involved.
Oh man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
He also wants to know if this Lee Stack can see, but obviously he made his way on camera, so I think we're good.
Yes. Now you of course understand that's not an original costume, because the original costumes were made out of wetsuits, literally wetsuits with scales put on that Mike Westmore did, and they were UCLA basketball players, and they were 7 feet in stocking feet. Plus they were in the Sleestak costume. The head was pointed. The feet had stilts on them with big claws. So they were about 10 feet tall in real life. And in Vegas at the Star Trek convention, obviously we missed this year.
2019, yeah.
Is Bill Laimbeer of the Detroit Pistons, who was known as the bad boy of basketballs, was a Sleestak when he was in college at UCLA. He was one of the Sleestak. Of course, he went on to become one of the most famous basketball players. And I hadn't seen Bill Laimbeer, and Kathy and I hadn't seen him for years and years since the show was over. And he was coaching the Aces, which is the women's basketball team in Las Vegas at the MGM, and they were the #1 basketball team at the time. Well, we made arrangements to go surprise him. We had the Sleestak with us. I had the Sleestak head. Kathy was there, and he didn't know we were coming, but all the women basketball players knew, and the owner of the team had given them 8x10s of a Sleestak head. And so when we walked, they had them all hidden, and we walked in, and I walk in, of course, I look a little different than I did from 1976. And they all held up above their head the Sleestak photo, and he saw the Sleestak. He finally realized what was going on, and he was like, dying of a man, right? I've got a photo where he's standing up here, and I'm about this. He's here, and this is me. It really is funny. And AP News, they did a whole thing on it, but we did photos and stuff, and we talked for a bit, and he left. And the owner of the league came over to Kathy and I, and he said, I got to tell you, I've known Bill Laimbeer since he started being a professional basketball player, and he has never smiled this much. So it was a good time to see him. They wanted him to do a convention once, and I think he wanted $16,000 guarantee. Said,
oh my God, no! That's a bit.
I asked for $100. They said no, but that's beside.
The convention circuit is tough. We all know that.
Yes. Okay, I paid them $100. All right,
I wasn't going to say. Robert, thank you so much. That's why I wanted Wesley on, because like I said, I've known Wesley for a little over a year, I guess, and we've done 2 conventions. Well, we met in Star Trek, and then we worked a convention together in November of 2019. And I've watched him do a bunch of virtual stuff, and one of the things you always bring with you is such an amazing energy.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, which is what.
Oh, I got this camera done. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I look much better now. It's just, I got to tell you, right before we started, I had one of those circle lights, and that sucker went out on me. It heated up. Wait.
Aww.
It heated up, and it won't. Look, it's going back on.
There you go.
Don't I look younger and prettier with that amber light?
You always look young and pretty to me.
It'll probably go out, but I did a show with Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie. In fact, I'm doing her show tomorrow again. And I said, Allison, because we did Butterflies Are Free years ago at the San Antonio Theater. See, it just went out on me. So
you still look fabulous.
We did Butterflies Are Free. We played boyfriend, girlfriend in the 80s at this dinner theater. And I hadn't seen her since. And I said, Allison, you look so good. What's going on? She goes, it's the circle light. We had a fundraiser. We're doing a fundraiser for a big beer company in Palm Springs, Valley Rep. So I said, as soon as we hang up, Amazon, next day delivery.
See, Doug agrees with me. You still look young, and you definitely have that young spirit. And look, War Dog's here, and he's sort of fanboying out right now, Wesley.
Oh, you sweet dog, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Like Land of the Lost was, I mean, I remember my Sid and Marty Krofft years when that was the thing to do on Saturday morning, was sit down and watch you guys and Sigmund and the Sea Monster and the Bugaloo and all of it. Witchy Poo. I loved all of it. And in fact, that convention that we did in November, I also had a chance to meet Sigmund from Sigmund and the Sea Monster. I met Johnny Whitaker, who is such a sweetheart.
Well, he didn't play Sigmund. He played, because Sigmund was the monster, right?
It was Sigmund and the Sea Monster.
Oh. Well, maybe I should have watched. No.
Maybe you should watch some of the shows. Yeah.
You know, I just did a show with Sid Croft has his own podcast on Instagram every Sunday, and I was a guest with Sid, who I've known for years. In fact, I got the job on Land of the Lost because I was at a party, and I met Sid Croft. It was a pool party, and I just gotten on Days of Our Lives, and he looked at me and goes, "I've got a show. Here's a phone number. Call this casting lady tomorrow. You've got to come audition." And I auditioned. And Sid said, we saw you. We saw no one else. We hired you. We cast everybody to be like the Spencer Milligan. They cast him because he looked like me. And
wow,
the show. But oh God, I'm old. I can't remember what the first point. What I was going to say. No, but I do these shows with Sid Croft, and he said that Sigmund the Sea Monster. He was at this beach just above San Diego, not Black's Beach, the naked beach, but it was the beach. Well, he could have been at the naked beach, for God's sake. It was back in the early 70s?
Yeah, mid 70s.
And a big thing of seaweed came washing up in the surf, and they were there. They're about to go to a meeting, and they'd been asked to do a new show, but he had no idea what to do. He was out of ideas. And this big clump, and it came up, and it was a big, like a rounded thing, looked like the sea monster on Sigmund. And he went, "Oh my God, that's it." He said he canceled the meeting. He was going, he got in his car, he drove back to his production office in Los Angeles, and the whole way he was writing, he ran right into the illustrators. He said, "Look, draw this for me," and they did, and that's how Sigmund the Sea Monster started.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I loved all of it. I have to say, I think Land of the Lost, totally unbiased because, but I think it was probably my favorite.
Well, it was, first of all, it was live action, which was unusual for the time.
Right.
Because it was written by David Gerald and D.C. Fontana and Larry Niven and Spen Rad.
Right.
All these people, Walter Koenig. It had a heart because the basis of Land of the Lost, it wasn't like silly and everybody goofy.
Right, yeah.
It was a family without a mom, in a terrifying situation, bonding together, and it was about the family. It was about the family being,
Yep. And see, Doug, like you said, it's timeless. Doug's intending to show it to everybody in his family and his grandkids. And just, it's interesting. I was on IMDb tonight, and I was looking up because I wanted to double check, how many Star Trek writers, and it turns out it looks like, according to IMDb, 6 out of the 25 writers that you had were Star Trek alumni, including, like you said, David Gerald, who wrote 17 of your episodes out of the 3 seasons. But I have my Amazon things turned on, my little Amazon, so like if you're looking at stuff on a website, the little Amazon window comes up and makes suggestions. Right. So I decided to make a suggestion since I was in the Land of the Lost IMDb page. And I clicked on it, and it was for the freaking movie. So just to get this out of the way, in case anybody out there is thinking about the Will Ferrell movie, Wesley went to the premiere. I watched it for exactly 5 minutes and will never watch it again. And that is all we are going to say about that movie tonight. That's all.
Well, no, wait. Now, let's be fair. First of all, Sid and Marty Krofft at Comic-Con San Diego, the year after the movie aired, I was their special surprise guest. And they go, "All right, we blew it." They owned up to it,
Yeah.
Will was a huge fan of Land of the Lost, and I went on set at Universal, and he was so kind because he played a character. Remember, Land of the Lost was Marshall Willenholly.
Right.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, it struck their tiny raft. Plunging down 1,000 feet below to the land of the lost. The dinosaur goes, roar. Anyway, so Will and Holly were the characters, but he played in another movie. Marshall Will and Holly was his last. Will and Holly.
Oh my God.
He's had a history with Land of the Lost, and he was great. He came to me. I went on the set one day, and he came running over. Goes, I never met him. He goes, Wesley, I just sang the theme song yesterday because he sings it with the banjo in the movie.
Okay.
I sang the theme song for this TV series, and so he was very kind. But here's the deal: I went to the premiere with Phil, and Phil Bailey was there, Chaka. So, I mean, it's Grauman's Chinese. It's the cameras, the paparazzi. It's all your dreams of Hollywood. You walk in the red carpet, I got a pretty gal on my friend Deanne Andrews, and she's on my shoulder. I'm like, hey, click, the whole thing, We go sit, Deanne and I go sit in the, to watch this movie, and it begins. And I'm so excited to see it because Kathy and I did a cameo in it, which was cut. But I'm watching the movie, and in the movie, Marshall, which was played our dad, and Holly was my sister in Land of the Lost. But in the movie, Marshall was Will Ferrell, who was an archaeologist, and Holly was this beautiful woman, a co-worker from England. Well, they had a romance. So there's a scene where they're talking, and it's quiet. It's totally quiet at Grauman's Chinese. There's packed to the rafters of people. And suddenly Marshall on the movie, Will Ferrell, kisses the actress Anna Friel, and they kiss each other, and I go, ah! I mean, I didn't mean to do it, but it was Will and Marshall and Holly kissing Dad. I was like, huh? People were like, oh God. I was so embarrassed.
You weren't the only. See, Doug felt the same way. I watched it. I ran across it on TV, and I'm like, oh, the Land of the Lost movie. And I had known that it was nothing like the show, but I'm like, let me just peek. And it was just this one scene with Shaka. They kept the language, which I thought was interesting. The language was it, but it was just, I was like, all right, we're good. We're good. I could say I saw it.
Well, of course, Shaka's a horny little devil in the movie.
But I couldn't stand that. That's exactly it. I'm like, stop that.
The Sleestack, though, which were amazing, they looked identical to the original Sleestack. It's just, it's not easy when you're drinking. It's when they had the Sleestack, but when they opened their mouth, they had double teeth, which I thought was really terrific. It was really cool.
Right.
They look like that. It was great. But I know a lot of people like the movie because it's Will Ferrell. If you like Will Ferrell, you'll have fun with the movie. Universal lost. This is true. Universal lost $200 million. $100 million in production and $100 million in promotion with like Subway and all this.
Right. Oh my God.
And the head, from what I understand, one of the heads of Universal got fired over it. So.
Oh my God.
It won the Razzie that year.
And that's the thing. I mean, 21 Jump Street, Land of the Lost, Starsky and Hutch. These movies, they just don't capture the magic that the shows had. They just can't.
But Star Trek. Oh my God! I'm on the edge of my seat every time a new Star Trek product comes out. I mean, I am the first in line to see it. I am since I was a kid. I mean, and I was watching there was the Star Trek documentary. David Gerald was on. DC Fontana.
Oh, what? Trekkies? The Trekkies one?
The 50th anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Remember that? It was, and I was looking at DC Fontana, Dorothy, and she had to use DC because she was a woman, and they sci-fi writers, they didn't let women write, which was nuts. And she wrote, by the way, Elsewhere on Land of the Lost, which is Kathy Coleman's favorite episode. It's where Holly meets herself in the future.
Oh, right.
In the mist, and Holly doesn't believe it, and she looks at the older woman, and she said, "What's that scar?" She says, "Well, you'll find out one day," basically. and she disappears herself in the future, the elder one. And then at that scene, Holly cuts herself in the same spot. And that was DC Fontana, brilliant sci-fi. I mean, Land of the Lost never talked down to kids. You're talking paradigms and multi-universes, and with the Sleestack, were they the antecedents or the predecessors, or it was, the pylons, and it was highbrow sci-fi, and they never explained it. They never said, oh, well, this is what it's about, little kids. They just said it, and you had to learn it. And I've had more people come up to me, and this is crazy. The fans that we have are extraordinary. Kathy and I were in Los Angeles doing a show, and this guy comes up and he introduced himself and he said, listen, I thought you guys spoke Farsi. And what? He goes, my brother and I used to watch you in Iran, or it was Iraq back then, I believe. And he said, we watched Land of the Lost. You were dubbed.
Right.
And we fell in love with sci-fi. And he said, we are now two heads of JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena.
Oh, wow.
And he said, because of Land of the Lost. And they invited Kathy and I on a very private tour of JPL. And we went, and they opened every door for us. They allowed us to go into the one room that no one's allowed to. You have to have a special, all sorts of clearance. It's the room where they drive the rovers on Mars.
Oh, my God.
So imagine this room. If you're a sci-fi person, listen, I mean, I'm freaking out. They're letting us through these doors with the security people, and we go into this room, and it's a huge room, and there's one guy sitting there, and there's a whole bunch of computers around, and this is the guy, and I wish I could remember his name. He's driven every rover on Mars that had ever landed up to that point with JPL, and he actually had a driver's license, a Mars driver's license, and he said, "You want to play with the joystick?" I go, oh, "Are you crazy?
Oh my God.
Are you crazy?" And so, we got to play with the joystick that controls the rover on Mars. Now,
oh my God.
It didn't move the Mars rover, because the way it works is they program it with the joystick, and they make sure everything's, and they run it through a computer. And when they know this is exactly what they want, then they send it to Mars, and it takes 8 hours, and then the rover moves ahead.
Oh, wow.
We didn't actually go move it like a Pac-Man game. Whee! Oh, there's a rock.
All right, Wesley, I actually have a question from the audience. This is from Magic Lasso. He wants to know if you worked with or played with Betty White when you were on Password.
I absolutely did.
Oh, there you go.
I was a regular on Password Plus. I did a lot of the shows, and Alan Ludden, her husband, and I became very good friends. And he passed, early on. And I got to play with Betty. I played a lot with Elizabeth Montgomery, Bewitched.
Yep.
I played with, oh my gosh, everybody, Marsha Wallace, and a whole bunch of them. But Betty White was great. And then I used to see Betty she's as we know, an animal activist. And there was a group that still exists called Actors and Others for Animals, with Earl Holliman and Joanne Worley from Laugh-In and Betty White. And so we would see them at fundraisers. I'd go and do some fundraising for them. But my best Password story is I'm at NBC Studios. It's the morning. You have to we shoot 5 shows in a day, because we shoot a whole week of shows. So you have to bring 5 wardrobes. So I haul all my stuff. I set it up in my dressing room. And the producer comes in and says, "Hey, listen, Wesley, would you mind teaching Lucille Ball how to play alphabetics?" Lucille Ball? You want me to teach Lucille Ball? I said, "Are you crazy?" "Yes, of course I
Oh my
teach
God.
Lucille Ball." So he shut the door. I called my mother, and my mother lived in Burbank, just around the corner, because I bought a couple of houses when I was doing Days of Our Lives, which was at NBC Burbank. And I say, "Hey, Mom," I said, "What are you doing today?" She goes, "Nothing." I go, "You want to spend the day with Lucille Ball?" 10 minutes, she was in my dressing room. Lucy comes in. See, I can call her Lucy because, and she comes in, and so I changed clothes. I got ready for the first half-hour show, go on set, film, come back in. She and my mom were in my dressing room, and we would talk about how the game played, and because she had played Password when it was black and white, but she didn't play the alphabetics, which was a the big bonus round at the end, which is the more complicated. And we'd talk about the clues and stuff. Then I'd change clothes, get the second wardrobe on, go film the second episode, which would be a Tuesday episode. And that happened all day. We had lunch together, and that was just an extraordinary day. So Password, I love it. And if you watch Buzzer TV, I mean, they're always showing some of the episodes, and it's so much fun. And I used to do Match Game, with that gang. And
I love Match Game.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to host my own game show for Nickelodeon called Finders Keepers, which was their number one game show for 2 years. And in fact, this 2 days ago, I filmed with Mark Summers. Mark Summers, the host of Double Dare. We hosted a Celebrity Hollywood Squares, and I was one of the squares as fundraiser for the Hollywood Museum to raise money for the Hollywood Museum. And Lonnie Anderson was one of the squares. She was next to me, and Will Schreiner. I mean, these wonderful, wonderful celebrities. But and Harvey, who was the announcer on Double Dare, was also my announcer on Finders Keepers. And I hadn't seen him since I had left the show. And it was just, kind of a reunion again. So everything kind of comes full circle in the entertainment business.
Yeah. And you know the Lucille Ball connection to Star Trek, I assume, if you're a real fan.
Well, Desi Arnaz. It's Desilu Productions.
Well, yeah, right? But even before that, what had happened was the original Star Trek pilot bombed at NBC. The Cage, it bombed. NBC wasn't they didn't want it. Lucille Ball, the story goes that Lucille Ball's the one that saw Gene Roddenberry's potential and told NBC to give him a chance to do another pilot.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, she's the one that told the powers that be to let. I think to this day it's still the only show that has ever had 2 pilots.
Wow, that's a piece of trivia I never knew.
Well, there you go. And so that just one more little connection for you in Star Trek.
And speaking of women writers and stuff, I mean, at her time, she was one of the most powerful female executives ever.
Oh, absolutely.
She was the trailblazer, like DC Fontana, Dorothy, when she was writing Star Trek and all the sci-fi stuff. I mean,
Magic Lasso wanted me to let you know Alan London is buried near where he lives out in Wisconsin.
Wow. I thought his funeral was at, I get sad when I talk about Alan London. I liked him so much. We were such good friends. And I became friends because I was a guest star on Password. But the day he was being buried at Forest Lawn in Los Angeles, I guess they were just having, if his body's not there, then they were having the ceremony at Forest Lawn, which was just like a mile from NBC. And I couldn't go to the funeral because that day I was hosting a new game show for NBC called Pot of Gold. It was my first primetime hosting job for a game show. And Alan, it makes me, and I couldn't go, and I really was sad. So I'm sitting we're in the same soundstage that they filmed Password, but now I have my set, and I'm in the dressing room with the makeup artist, and everybody's left, and I'm crying. I am crying, and Alan had shown me this one thing. He said, Wesley, I got to show you something in the makeup room one day at Password. He says, look, he takes a little black pencil and puts it right under his bottom lip, just a little black mark. And he goes, look, it makes your lips look fuller. Always do it. So I'm sitting in the chair. Alan's having his funeral down the street. And I take the black, it's an eyebrow pencil. And I take the eyebrow pencil and I just do a little thing. And I'm saying, this is for you. And that was, and every time tonight before I did this, I did it, and I think
you have to get camera ready.
Don't you? I'm really checking. I think it's fabulous. But
just
I actually did it tonight and said thank you, Alan.
All right. So earlier I had mentioned Chase Masterson and her charity, and I mentioned my friend Raymond who works with Chase, and here he is because I know he is really wanting to meet you. So now you're virtually meeting Raymond. So he was I told him specifically, I'm like, Wesley's doing my podcast. You got to come. But hopefully we'll all be, like I said, together in Vegas, vaccines permitting.
Well, so I'm hoping we'll still let us come because now creation, of course, is changing. And because they would always say, we don't know who likes you guys so much, Land of the Lost. You're the only show that's not Star Trek that's allowed to be here at these conventions. And, I'm hoping they'll still invite us and want us to be there this in August, and we're because we get to see everybody, and it'll be nice to finally get together again with everybody.
Well, yeah, and I need my Wesley fix. This doesn't do it for me. I miss hugging people and seeing people, and there's so many people that I love in Vegas that I usually only get to see once a year. So, and now you're on that. You guys are on that list. But I want to move on to something that you promised that we could talk about because, like I said, Days of Our Lives was in my life before Star Trek was in my life, and one of your cohorts over at Sid and Marty Krofft was Deidre Hall. For those of you that don't know, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, which was another one that I absolutely loved. Yeah. And Deidre to this day is still on Days of Our Lives playing Dr. Marlena Evans, who happens to be one of my favorite characters. And were it not for you, that might not have happened. So I want to hear that. I want everybody to hear that wonderful story.
So I'm doing Days of Our Lives and Land of the Lost at the same time. They're both NBC shows. So they would let me film. In the morning, I got to do all my scenes on Days of Our Lives at NBC Burbank. Then I'd get in my car and race over to Hollywood to General Services Studios, the old, what's his face? I can't think of his name. The silent film actor.
Charlie Chaplin?
Chaplin Studios. And I'm sitting outside. I'm taking a break. I'm sitting outside of the soundstage, and this girl comes over to me. And she introduced herself as Deidre Hall. She said, "Hey, listen, I've got an audition for Days of Our Lives, Dr. Marlena." And I said, "I know what they're looking for because I heard them talk." And so we got her sides. We ran over some stuff. The sides are the scene she was going to do, the audition, the script. And listen, she's not that I got her the job, not that I did anything to get her the job. I take no credit for it because she's so talented. But hopefully I gave her a little bit of an edge. But but again, then she played on Days of Our Lives. She was my therapist. She had her twin sister Andrea come on to play. There was, she had her twin on for a while. I mean, so we have a long history. And I last saw Deidre at the Hollywood show, and there was Bill and Susan Seaforth Hayes were there, and Kevin Spearness and Patrika Darbo. So all the Days of Our Lives gang were there, and I was sitting next to them as a Land of the Lost person, so I got to hug and kiss, and it was nice.
So Domestic actually has a Days of Our Lives question for you. He wants to know if you remember the name of the actress who played Linda Anderson, Mickey Horton's secretary.
Oh my God! It was Linda was oh my gosh! I had oh my God! What was her name? Okay, I'm old. I'm having a fart here, brain fart. And we did some great scenes together. In fact, we did a Tea and Sympathy thing where I had an affair with my father's lover, Linda. It was, I can't. Somebody help me out here.
Don't remember that far back. I can't. I'm sorry.
It's so beautiful. What a beautiful actress. Linda Anderson. A friend is here, and I just said, go look it up and we'll figure it out.
Oh, thank you, Slee Stack. So I'm trained to actually Google things. I think that's great.
Yeah, I hope the actress has a lot of S's in her name.
But that's one of the things I love is you let me, I told everybody this last week, I get to fangirl out about Days, which I think is amazing.
Margaret Mason.
There we go.
Thank you, Slee Stack.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was hard to listen because he went, Margaret Mason. It was. But Maggie was Maggie, and she was fabulous. Oh my God.
Oh, Susan.
Some people there, and Bill Hayes called me. He's 96 years old. He called me about 3 weeks ago, out of the blue. He and Susan Seaforth, and because we were all very close friends back in the day. I was on almost 10 years. I grew up there in my 20s. I spent my 20s on Days of Our Lives, and when I was doing Land of the Lost. So in the morning, I did all my scenes for Days of Our Lives, and the cast hated me for 3 years because I got to film all my scenes in the morning first, and then I left, and they had to wait for me if they weren't my scene, and so for 3 years they had to put up with it. And then, so in the morning, I'm crying that my girlfriend is leaving me, and I'm having all these problems, emotional problems. And then in the afternoon, I'm going, run, Holly, run! There's a dinosaur! Ah! So it's a little schizophrenic.
Yeah, and Bill Hayes and Susan Seaforth, Doug and Julie, they've been on the show. They're still on the show. Julie's still a spitfire, causing trouble.
She is so. I used to host a lot of telethons back when they had telethons. I was actually for many years the number one money raiser for the March of Dimes, and we did one in Texas. They sent a private jet for us. So we do the telethon, saying we just stay up and have all the stuff we're doing. We're coming back, and it's a Lear jacket, and there's only 6 seats. So if you've ever been in a Lear jet, darling, so there's 6 seats, and one seat faces backwards, and it's the toilet. And if you have to go, there's just a little curtain you go around, right? So this country western performer who was in the show with us is sitting on that seat, and he's like, we're stopping. He's got a cigarette. Wait, we have to get this story right. He goes, he's starting to smoke, and Susan goes, excuse me. She's with Bill in the back of the plane. Excuse me. Could you put that cigarette out? He goes, oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. He picks up the trash can and goes, in the trash can blowing. Of course, it's going all over. Excuse me. Could you put it out? So he puts out the cigarette. And then he's sitting there for a few minutes, goes, where's the toilet? And I go, well, it's right there. You're sitting on it's a jump seat, and you pull the curtain around, you lift the seat, and in the back, Susan goes, I'd rather you smoked. I couldn't stop laughing. We were all laughing so hard.
Oh my God. All right. So Domestic wanted to thank you because he had a crush on Linda Anderson back in the day.
Oh my God. She was gorgeous. I mean, she was like a 1920s pinup with the blonde hair. And I mean, she was something else.
And your character had an affair with her? Is that what you were?
Yeah. I was having a problem with Trish, my girlfriend, and stuff like that. And I went and was crying because she's my father's lover, and I'm crying at her house and stuff. And she says, Michael. I said, no, I'm having these problems. I'll never be in love again. And stuff. And she goes, Michael. She looks at me. She just like 1940s film noir. She turns off the light in the living room that I'm sitting in. I'm just looking like, it's like, okay. And I think Mrs. Robinson, I think you're trying to seduce me. And she turns on the bedroom light, and the light pours in from the bedroom. It was just shot that way. And she's in the bedroom door with the light behind her going, Michael. And I go, and I follow her in the bedroom.
Well, and but then we find out, see, I do remember my day's history. You thought Mickey was your dad, but Bill's really your dad. Bill's really Mike Horton's dad.
Yes. When I first got on the show, a wagon fell on my chest and crushed it. Then I found out that my father wasn't my father. He was really my uncle, because my uncle had raped my mother years ago at the hospital. Then I had an affair with Trish. The mafia was after me. And then I couldn't get it up, so I had an affair with Linda to prove that I was okay. Then I married a girl named Margot. She had leukemia and died. That was the first week of the show, for God's sake.
And you were on it for 6 years, I think? 6, 7? Yes.
Oh my God, we lost, Larry, I'm back again. No, I was on for 7, 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they've had, gotta love the soaps, because there's always, they've had a couple of other actors that have played Mike Horton since you left. Yeah,
Michael Weiss played me for a while, and he was very sweet. And I saw him doing an interview saying, thank you, Wesley, for leaving the show. And it was very, very, very nice. But I loved it. I was a kid. I grew up on that show. They were my family. And McDonald Carey and Francis Reed. A lot of them are gone. Several of them were very ill and at the end of their journey. And Bill was telling me. So.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that you're not Sirach Lofton, who was on Deep Space Nine. He was on the show in January, and he actually was on days back in May. He was guard at the jail. And I'm like, Sirach, we'll talk about Deep Space Nine and all the stuff that you've done and Jake Sisko, blah, blah. I said, but we need to get to Days of Our Lives. I'm like, you were on Days. And he said, oh, I love that show. So again, he got to be on something he loved. And he was actually, Maggie was in prison. So he was the guard at the prison when Maggie was in prison.
Nice.
She's out now. So, I know you don't follow it, but she's okay now.
Yeah.
But again, I mean,
gorgeous. Yeah. And she's my stepmom.
Right.
So, and she was a Rockette years ago. The most beautiful legs you've ever seen. And we used to do back in the day, I don't think they still do, we actually did production numbers, dancing and singing and top hats. And you can go to YouTube and you can see one. But there's one where she's actually, where we're all singing, we're in tuxedos and singing Bill Hayes, everybody, Robert Clary, everybody's around singing. And she's got, she's doing the kicks and she's, in the little skimpy, little dance outfit. I mean, what a knockout was she? Like
she still is, and she's away right now, but she's Maggie's still on the show, so they still have that. But you mentioned Robert Clary, and he's just another actor that I adored. Something I used to watch him growing up, and again double time because I used to watch him in Hogan's Heroes, and then I got to watch him on Days of Our Lives, and he was just another multi-talented. He had a beautiful voice.
He did. He would sing at Doug's place back in the day, and I know that Bill Hayes and he used to have Thursday lunches every for years and years and years and years.
And for anybody that's a fan of Hogan's Heroes, he played LeBeau. He played the Frenchman LeBeau, and he was actually born and raised in France. I actually did get his autobiography. I haven't really gotten very far in it.
Well, what was extraordinary about him, if you're a Hogan's Heroes fan, is that he went into the concentration camps and he has the number tattoos on his arm. And it's to actually see it and to be part of someone's life. I mean, imagine the joy he has brought to millions of people, from Hogan's Heroes to Days of Our Lives to all the shows he did. But he was almost a victim of the Holocaust, and by the skin of his teeth, he's still alive. And what an incredible man, he and his wife.
So we're getting to the point now. So we've already covered. So you've worked with Lucille Ball. Land of the Lost had a ton of Star Trek writers and makeup people. So the last little link that you have to Star Trek is recent. Oh, wait, got a question for you, and then we'll move on to your most recent Star Trek. Did you ever go to Studio 54?
Oh gosh, yes.
Magic Lasso comes through again.
Yeah. No, I never went to Studio 54. What a place! Oh my God! I remember one night. Listen. There's some really good perks about being a celebrity. I gotta tell you. I mean, you can get annoyed all you want to about paparazzi and that stuff, but it is so much fun. And NBC had flown us to do something. I was in LA, and they flew me to do an event in Wheeling, West Virginia, with the oldest NBC affiliate. It was their, I think at the time it was their 30th anniversary or something. So I was a guest star and did something. Then they flew us on a Learjet.
Oh, they with a Learjet.
I remember this. So we're flying into Kennedy Airport on a Learjet, and I'm a brat. And they just had 6 seats, got a curtain where the pilot is, and I go, we're coming over Manhattan. I go, excuse me, can you fly us around the Statue of Liberty? And the pilot's I'm sorry, young man. He said, listen, FAA rules, and absolutely not. And Arthur Badavis, who was one of the heads of promotion for NBC, who because of this became one of my best friends in life, goes, excuse me, I'm NBC. That's Wesley Eure who will be flying us around the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my God.
Now you couldn't do it now. So here's the Statue of Liberty. Here's the Learjet coming. Now we couldn't go like around the Statue of Liberty, but we did 2 circles up above the statue.
Oh my God!
And then flew into Kennedy. So I knew Arthur was going to be my friend for the rest of my life. But we went and saw Saturday Night Live as guests, and then they sent us all in these limousines, a whole bunch of celebrities, and we went to Studio 54 and had a great time. Well, everybody left. All the stars, and they went home, and so I ended up with 4 limousines from NBC they were sitting outside waiting for 4 limousines. I called up a couple of friends in New York and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Nothing. I said, "You want a limousine for the night?" So they ran down to Studio 54, got the limousine, and then they did whatever they wanted to do. But no, it was so extraordinary. I mean, it's hard to explain how much fun New York was back in the day with the disco, and it was a theater. It was theater in the sky, high-flying acts and entertainers and things falling from the sky, and it was extraordinary. So, and I wasn't a big party. It wasn't like I was doing a lot of drugs and stuff like that. I didn't, because I was working all the time, and I didn't even drink very much. And but it was a very heady time, and I was so happy to have been part of that. A little inkling part of that.
Okay, so I think this is something else that this is one of the stories you told me that I love that I want to share. You used to be neighbors with Cher. Speaking of sharing.
Woo! Fucking turn back house. Where's Sonny Bono? I haven't seen Sonny for a long. Sonny, watch out for that tree. And have I name dropped enough tonight? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I keep feeling like I need to pick up hairpins or something. Excuse me. There's another name dropped. Oh, hey, there's somebody else.
Well, you were also friends with Richard Chamberlain, but that's a big name drop for me.
I mean, I knew I was lucky to know everybody, but Cher, I got to tell you the Cher story.
Guys, tell the Cher story.
So first of all, I owned a horse ranch, and she owned all the property behind me, so she wasn't living there. But Cher would have garage sales. They were invitation only. So I went to 3 of them. She was a shopaholic. I mean, she bought so much stuff, she never opened it. She had Bob Mackie gowns and stuff. So we'd go to Beverly, I think it was Beverly Glen or whatever her house was on. You go up to the gate, and I push the button. I always take my mother because it's shopping. So I take my mom and would push the button, and I'd hear, "Yeah, go, hi, Cher, it's Wesley. Come on in." The gates open up. We're driving this long driveway, and it was her Egyptian house. It's a house that Eddie Murphy ended up buying. And out in the garage area, there were systems and clothes racks and tables with tons of stuff. Well, it was amazing. And my mother was tiny little lady. Well, Cher's a tiny little lady. They wore the exact same size. I mean, Cher, she looks tall on TV. She's tiny. And so until the day my mom passed away, she still had some high heel sneakers that she bought from Cher that were gold lame and silver lame. My mother bought 2 wingback chairs from Cher. And the first garage sale, somebody bought one of those squash blossoms that Cher used to wear. That was the Indian with the turquoise and the silver and the big things. They bought it for $75 and sold it for $2,000 the next week. So my mom and I we went to the second one. We ran to the jewelry. And my mother ended up buying some silver beads or whatever. But my best time was Cher. There was something. It was marked $15, and I wanted it. And I go, "Hey, Cher, I'll give you $10. She goes, "No, it's marked 15." But we used to go roller skating with Cher back in the roller skating days, because I'm old. Back in the 70s, and she used to rent out the rink in Reseda, California, and there'd be Elton John and the Bee Gees and whoever showing up. Every Thursday night we'd be out, and it was just, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, women only, Mirabal, men only. Let's reverse." It was everything from a cheesy roller rink you can imagine, and everybody in the world was there. It was so much fun back then.
All right, so I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but did Cher actually get her own mail?
Yes, I was in her mailbox every day, and I made sure she got the heck out of here. I don't know. I really don't.
No.
I mean,
But
she certainly had a big, I have no idea. But I love that question. That's kind of a fun. I like that question.
So you are still an actual working actor. You've had some projects recently.
Yes, I just did another movie 2-3 days ago. So
there you go.
It's still one of the best scripts I've ever read. So that'll be coming up.
Will be on the. But one of the ones that you did very recently that I watched the trailer for tonight is called Senior Moment. And it stars, I think, somebody that's familiar to my audience, Bill something or other.
Billy.
Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done some sci-fi work too. And also Christopher Lloyd from Taxi.
Well, Back to the Future, Christopher Lloyd, for God's sake.
Or let's try the Klingon from Search for Spock, because that's the big thing for my audience. He was in, I don't think William Shatner's going to push him off a cliff this time because it looks like they're buddies in this movie.
William Shatner, Christopher Lloyd, and Gene Smart, who I just adore. And it's a comedy. Go Google it. You'll see the trailer. It's coming out. It's going to be in the theaters this month and online. I don't know quite how it's going to all work.
Right.
It took them a couple of years because we filmed it a couple of years ago trying to get it produced or get it released. And because of the pandemic, they were able to get it released. It's one of the good things about the pandemic, because all the major movies that would normally be released are not releasing, like the Tom Cruise movie and stuff.
Right.
So the trailer is fabulous. It's funny. I was at a restaurant in Palm Springs, at a Mexican restaurant, El Mirasol, having dinner. And this guy comes walking in my table and says, "You're Wesley Eure, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm producing a movie with Shatner. I want you in my movie." I go, "Well, all right." I said, "When do I show up?" And so they wanted some. It's shot in Palm Springs. It features Palm Springs, so they wanted some Palm Springs celebrities. So I immediately said, "Who else do you want?" And so I got on the phone and I called Kay Ballard, my mother, the car, one of my favorite performers. Kay just passed away last year, and I said, "Kay, want to be in a movie?" She said, "Sure." So and then I called Ruta Lee. Who was back in the day, was in every movie you can imagine. I mean, every TV series from Andy Griffin on is gorgeous, and got her a part. So we filmed this little part, and as a gift to the executive producer who got me the show, I gave him a brand new Sleestack outfit, like what you just saw. They used to you could buy them on Amazon for like $60. They were a Halloween costume, and it's just a tiny little part, and it looks fabulous. And Shatner was terrific. You couldn't take photographs with him. No photographs.
No, he gets $80 for those.
Yeah, exactly.
At least.
But I got to tell you, his work ethic is extraordinary. And I'd watch him work, and actors. He would have such insight into a scene, and he would talk to the director, who was Giorgio, Italian director. It's wonderful. And he would say, "Look, this is what I think it should be, and here's what I'm thinking, and no, I think you've missed the whatever." But he was so engaged in his performance and caring about the angles of the cameras and stuff like that. So working with him on that side of the fence and get to see him perform professionally was extraordinary. Because I'd seen him, of course, at the Star Trek conventions and things like that.
Right.
But he was dynamite, and I think he's really good in comedy, and I'm hoping for the trailer looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks great.
I think has probably been cut. I just had a tiny little walk on, so hopefully it's still in the movie. I hear that at least I'm on the screen at least a moment. I don't know if everything's been cut or not.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Just to be part of Shatner's life and to be on IMDb with Shatner is
there you go. Well, and it's funny, and I've mentioned this on some other podcasts. Connor Chenier, who's one of my favorite Star Trek people, he was in Star Trek Enterprise, and the first year that I was in Las Vegas, it had come out that he was supposed to be an American Made, the Tom Cruise movie, and he was playing George W. Bush, And I went up to him and I said, Connor, I'm like, can you do your George W. Bush for me? And he said, no. He said, you need to go see the movie. He goes, but I can't guarantee you that I'm in it because it's not a part that has anything to do with the story. It doesn't drive the story. It's just a little throwaway part. I said to him, so you expect me to spend $10 to go see a movie that you may or may not be in? I mean, I didn't care it was a Tom Cruise movie. And Connor said, I'll tell you what. He said, if they cut me out and I'm not in it, see me next year and I'll do the George W. for you. And
okay, what a terrible thing to do. I mean, for God's sakes, dude, George W. Bush. I mean, he's not going to make any money off that movie. That $10 you gave him is not coming to his pocket.
I know, but he was in it. He was in it for obviously not as long as he would. You know, they shot a lot more than what they used.
Right. Yes.
But he was in. He had some lovely. I've seen him in interviews. He had some lovely things to say about Tom Cruise. But that's the thing. It's like when you are in one of those smaller roles, you just don't know, and you don't know until like you go to see the movie yourself, and then you're like, wait, what happened to me?
Yeah, the last couple of years, I've done a couple of movies, and if you blink, it's like I mean, I've two movies in the last couple of years, and it's like I'm still in it. I got a couple lines, but it's still okay. That was quick,
right? Well, and
listen, the fact that they're still asking,
right?
It's a tiny part, or a walk on, or a smidget of a flash across the screen. I am so honored to be, and genuinely honored that somebody still, wants to be part of the production. So
well, and I mean, you've got other things. You have other things in production. You work on your own projects. You created Dragon Tales, so you've done things from both sides of the camera. But the other thing I want to say about Shatner, because the first time I ever saw him at a convention was in Philadelphia, and somebody actually asked him, are there any roles that you regret? And he said no. And he said, the one thing you don't understand, that you need to understand, is acting's a part-time gig. He said, I don't understand actors that turn down roles because they don't like the script, because you never know where your next role is coming from. He said, everything I've ever done is put food on my table, put my kids through school, So no, he regrets nothing, because that's the transient world of acting. You don't know where you're not. Everything ends.
He's totally right. I got to tell you, and you see the conventions, and I'm on the celebrity side of the table, but I'm also a fan, a big fan. But when I see performers that are such jerks and are prima donnas and so on, I'm thinking, getting a role like even Land of the Lost or whatever, any other actor could have played it that looked, had the same look. If I had not been available that day for an audition, it would have been another actor. It would have been whatever, and it would, whatever happened. If Shatner had been ill that day with the flu and he couldn't go, or any of the roles any of us ever get, the gratitude, we're so lucky. It's lightning in a bottle catching. And for somebody not to treat that with such respect, and the fans with such respect,
right?
We're all in this together. I mean, this is, you're lucky to be there, and you're lucky they still want to talk to you. And for anybody to put up kind of those fronts and throw hissy fits and whatever stuff, I have no patience for it, and I walk away from those people. I have, and there's some people I totally walk away from.
Well, and it's funny because Jeffrey Hunter, who was the first captain, who was in the pilot that didn't go anywhere, Captain Pike, they actually wanted him. They asked him to come back and do it again for the new pilot, and he turned them down. His son's been on the show, and his son said, if I'm not mistaken, his son said that Jeffrey's wife at the time said, I'm not sure you want to be attached to something like this. Because like the Batman stigma, that kind of thing where, you worry about getting typecast. And if you do this sci-fi thing, is it going to limit you career-wise? So he turned them down when they asked him if he wanted to do it again. So that's how Bill got the part.
And, now Jeffrey Hunter at the time, of course, was a pretty big star. I mean, he was prime. So he did have an already established career. So he made choices and stuff like that. So you can't, but for somebody or something who was doing small parts to walk in and get this, and it ran 3 years, as we know, and it wasn't, nobody thought it was going to be. Even David Gerald talked about it on the documentary the other night. Nobody knew what to do. They were creating it as they went. It was
Right.
You never know. I mean, Land of the Lost could have been a one season out the window.
Right.
Had it not been for the talent of the actors that played, on the show, but also the writing, the Star Trek writers, the sci-fi that was real science fiction. That that the imaginations. I mean, it caught people. It changed people's lives. And I talked to archaeologists, and again, like the JPL guys and things like that. That careers were launched because of that incredible sci-fi and the interest that people took into the sciences and to the outer space and to
Right.
So.
Well, I think Doug's nailed it. Oh, my mouse again. Hold on. There we go. God bless you, Wesley. That's from Doug.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks. I got to tell you, because conventions, I never did conventions before. I thought, hey, I don't want to do these conventions. And I've been lucky. Listen, I've been very lucky in my life. I have been, I've been successful in many areas of my life, writing books or Dragon Tales or whatever the stuff that I do. And I didn't start doing conventions until a few years ago, and with Kathy and stuff. And, it is so not about the economy of it. It is about the fun that we have. It is about, I have more fun with Kathy Coleman and Phil Paley and whoever else, and the stars that we meet. There's nothing like going to breakfast with Todd Bridges the next morning. I'm telling you, I meet these amazing people, and Deanna Troy.
Oh, Marina, yeah.
Marina. So I'm at a show with Marina, and I'd never met her before. She comes over to my table. She looks at my picture. She says, "If I'd known you back then, I'd be dating you." I'm telling you, moments like that. I mean, I'm telling you, it is such a gift and a blessing, and that's the fun, and that's what I've missed so much, of course, with all of us being quarantined.
Yeah, and I'm just so glad that we were able to at least do these virtual little get-togethers, just because it's something,
Exactly, it is, and again, our friendship, the fact that that you and I clicked and became friends, and
yep, was yeah.
This wouldn't have happened had I stayed home.
No, it wouldn't. My Star Trek Las Vegas would have been way more boring without you there, and I wouldn't have gotten my caramel. I wouldn't have gotten my caramel corn for my birthday. So
I know, and we had planned big plans for your birthday last year, but
yes, that's right, because you guys were talking about coming out to Vegas early, so. Yeah, because I had a big birthday last year, and I was going to go out the weekend before the convention and do a big birthday thing, and then just fold that into the convention. But hopefully, this year's we're looking at makeup year. I'm still trying to make plans for that.
Nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, if I make it out to California before then, because you're all shot up, so you're safe.
Listen, I'm anxious. I did get my 2 shots, and I'm not talking vodka. I got my 2 shots. And I have been quarantined, and I normally spend half the year in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, for 6 months. But we gave up going there this year because it's just too dangerous, and I miss it. But I am still being so careful, and I hope everybody out there is staying safe and wearing your mask and getting your shot when it becomes available.
And doing everything you can.
Everything. So, it's the only way we're going to get together.
It is.
Hug and kiss and get into our yellow raft together and go down the waterfall.
Get massages. I think we were helping each other out with that too.
Exactly.
Domestic says thank you to both of us. Domestic, thank you for coming. I am so glad that you had a good time. That's why I wanted Wesley. Wesley is absolutely one of my favorite people too, and it's because of his energy. And he's usually my go-to person. He's been my go-to person during the pandemic whenever I'm feeling down, because you always cheer me right up. So it's one of the reasons I love you so much. Let's see.
It's been a tough time for all of us, and it is. And if you live alone, and you have financial issues too, oh my God! I mean, the pressure and the sadness and we all need to rally and support our friends. And I know this is
Absolutely.
blah blah blah. It's been a year. Everybody's tired of hearing all this stuff, but it's still a reality for a lot of people, and
Absolutely.
all of us to be communicative and be together and support each other and do what we can to keep everybody's spirits alive and get through this so we can go some sort of normalcy.
Well, Robert says it was a real pleasure to meet you virtually. Hopefully, like Wesley says, he does conventions. Maybe, Robert, you'll have a chance to meet him one day.
Well, if we do the Star Trek convention, they won't let us advertise on the Star Trek convention because we weren't Star Trek, and I understand it.
Right.
I absolutely understand it. But so we go in there. Nobody know. It's really funny because we go to Star Trek convention, and we've done. Kathy and I did it for like 6 years, and we didn't go to the 50th anniversary because it was only Star Trek. They would only allow Star Trek. Mm-hmm. But it's not on any website. They don't promote us. They can't do that. And people would be walking down the aisle. It's all Star Trek, and then they'd see this Land of the Lost with the dinosaurs and all this stuff in the sleeve stack.
Your booth is hard to miss.
We were the moose boosh.
Well, Magic Lasso, thanks you for answering all of his questions.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, we do a lot of fundraisers. I do celebrity fundraisers for AIDS, for battered women, for breast cancer. It's important for all of us to give back, and so So, in fact, Alison Arngrim and I just did a fundraiser for a theater, a big equity theater that's been struggling, Coachella Valley Rep Theater, and so that's.
Oh, is that? Yeah. Is that the Palm Springs Theater?
Yeah,
you and Allison did the.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, I saw that. I did go to that. That was great. I thought that was amazing. Travis.
I gotta tell you, that's one of the fun things about having some celebrity. And when I would host the March of Dimes telethons or the Variety Club telethons or what was oh my god, the multiple district, I'd be those telethons, I would be like the local host or like or something. When you can put your name and you can create something, or you can produce shows and bring in celebrities for fundraisers and raise money. And I've raised, fortunately, a lot of money and for different charities, and it's the greatest honor. I mean, it seems so. It doesn't seem like it's me. It seems so. It's like I was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and I'm from a broken family. My dad left. And my family were all educators, and nobody's in the entertainment business. And when I was 5 years old, I stood up and said, "I'm going to be an actor." They just thought I was bananas, and I was. But
still are.
So I came from. I mean, this is a dream. I look around my home and my life and the people that I've met and know, and I got to tell you, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like. It just doesn't feel real, and I'm not trying to be self-serving or anything like that. I'm really not. I'm just genuinely telling you, from a little kid in Mississippi. It's otherworldly to me.
Absolutely, I know. I can get that. So Robert's got Jacksonville, as in the 50. It's not called the 55-year mission, but the creation. Science fiction, whatever Creation's calling it now. Because Creation, now that they don't have the Star Trek license, they're back to branching out. They're not just doing Vegas. They've got sci-fi conventions in Canada, Jacksonville, Florida, here in Edison, New Jersey. And I thought that there was another, maybe it is just Canada, Jackson. Right now it might just be Canada, Jacksonville, and New Jersey. But so Creation's branching out. So you never know. Maybe we can, work something out with them. Because it can't just be, it's not just a Star Trek convention anymore. It's mostly Star Trek people, but they're also adding they add other sci-fi shows to it as well. So it's worth a conversation.
They're a great organization. They know how to put on a convention.
They really do.
I mean, my goodness, it is like a clockwork. And everybody's, safe, and the things happen. They make promises. They come through with their promises.
Yeah,
and that's extraordinary because it's not easy putting on a convention. It is a tough job logistically.
No, it's not. I mean, the small one that we did in November was one guy just decided he wants to do this convention every year, And yeah, he and I talked, and I know what he has to go through just to put it together. So, well, hopefully, once things open up, you'll be back on the convention circuit. I know you do more than just the creation stuff. You do some of the nostalgia conventions and a couple others that are here in New Jersey. Because I owe you guys a trip to New York. Because there was a rumor you were coming out to a convention here.
Yeah.
And I had talked to Phil about it, and he was making disparaging remarks against New Jersey. And I was like, yeah, wow. But I promised. I know. And I'm still going to. But I promised him a trip in.
I love New Jersey. We have more fun there.
Exactly. We are a fun state. And if we all end up getting together in North Jersey, then I told Phil that I'd take him into New York City. So if you.
Well, the last time I did Chiller in New Jersey with Kathy and Phil, which we had a ball. Everybody in the world was there. One of my friends who was a cop for many years in Piscataway, New Jersey, basically a town over from where Chiller's held. He retired that weekend after all these years, so I got to take him out for his final dinner. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much fun the conventions are, because it's not just about sitting at a table. I mean, had I not been in New Jersey doing Chiller, I would not have been able to take my friend who was one of the head cops out for his final meal as a police officer. And it's those kind of events and meeting friends and stuff. It is. So if you've ever thought about going to a convention, you've never been to a convention, it is really an experience. And if you go feet first, participate in everything. Go to the karaoke, go to whatever the events are, the pajama parties, anything. Just be part of it. Don't sit back. And it is the more you participate, truly, I guarantee you, the more fun you're going to have and friends you're going to make.
Oh, Piscataway happens to be my favorite city in New Jersey, just because I like saying Piscataway.
Exactly.
And what's really funny is when we were in Philly in November, I took Phil out to dinner. Well, I didn't take him out to dinner. He wanted to go to dinner, and I was the one with the car. He starts going through his Instagram. He follows this foodie on Instagram. And the guy had recommended some place that wasn't that far from where we were. And Phil's like, I want to go here. I'm like, you sure you don't want to just go for like a cheesesteak? I'm like, I'll take you to Pat's. We'll go for a cheesesteak. No, I want to go here. So I'm like, me and Phil and Johnny Whitaker drove into this divey little section of Philadelphia just to go. And it was an amazing dinner. It was so good. But yeah, because that's the thing. When you go to conventions, you get to visit places that you haven't been.
Exactly. So for everybody out there, we're talking Phil Paley, who played Chaka on Land of the Lost.
Yep.
But I also hear that when you guys you parked somewhere and you were afraid your car was going to get broken into or something. It was like dark and something weird.
Oh well, he didn't tell you that I knocked into somebody's side view mirror.
That's it. That's the story.
I'm going to kill him because we were driving. The streets in Philly are really narrow. And they were parking on both sides. There was parking on both sides, and I didn't realize how close I was to the cars on the right. And my side view mirror hit somebody else's side view mirror, and you hear crash. And Phil's like, I'm like, oh my god, should I stop? Phil's like, go! So like, I can't believe. Yeah, it was not that. Well, that was the other thing. It's not the nicest section of Philly, but this it wasn't even a dive. I mean, it was like high-end food, like high-end gastro pubby kind of stuff. But Phil was right. Following this guy on Instagram got us. But yeah, I hit somebody's, and I was waiting to find out if somebody got my license plate or something. They were like driving away from the scene of the accident.
Yes. So now everybody knows in your podcast that you are a criminal.
I am.
That you need to be arrested, and
Yep, there has to be some sort of statute of limitations, and I blame Phil for all of this. I'm gonna text him when we're done, and I'm gonna tell him if the cops show up at my door, he's posting my bail.
I wonder how many of us in our lives have done something like that, and have where we have that. The hairs on the back of your neck bristle when you think about it. Like, did I really get away with that? Did I? It's amazing. You live long enough, all of us pretty much have done something that we probably should have made a different choice.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as no, Travis, you want to get invited back to the show. Yeah, and unless you were in Philly last November, Robert, it wasn't you. It was just some poor schlub that walked out the net. You know what, though? Karma's a bitch, because I was backing out of my parents' garage today. I was at my parents' house, and I parked, and that mirror on the passenger side, I bashed it against the side of the garage.
Remind me not to drive with you at a convention.
No, that honestly, their garage has done more damage to all of the cars in my family. Like, I don't even know what.
Can I just say something, Stephanie? I don't mean to be rude,
but
the garage doesn't move, so the garage hasn't done damage to your car. You've actually done damage to the garage. You know, it just sits there and it goes, oh,
not this garage.
Stephanie's coming. Ah!
Wesley, you live with a slee stack. My garage can move. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
Wesley, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. This has been amazing. I might actually have to have you back maybe at some point. We'll see. After that last little comment, I don't know. You're on the fence now.
I can't come back. I have reached my level of entertainment. I have no more left.
Right, until tomorrow. Until tomorrow. So for everybody out there, thank you all for joining me. Don't forget, you can find the NX 7062 podcast on Patreon. I just Facebooked out the link to my t-shirts. You can buy some fun merchandise to support the show. I've got t-shirts, tank tops, bags. It's all on Teespring, and you can go over to Facebook and click the link there. I'll post it other places too. Thank you all for joining me and the fabulous Wesley Eure tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming out. You know what? You're going to find me here again next week, because you know that's where I am every Monday night, live 10 East. Thank you all so much. See you next week. Until then, live long and prosper.
Hey, this is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX 7062 podcast with Stephanie. Enjoy your evening.